Hello, thank you very much for coming, Martha, to this part of the world. I'm very exciting to have you here in Southern Africa part. I'm really interested in seeing the thematic you are dealing with, and because it's part really of this dialogue, international dialogue. Looking at where I am in Mozambique, which is part of the southern region of Africa, but part of Africa, and lastly part of the world is globally, I think it's very important to have this connection and this dialogue. My continent is what we can say important part also of the world as every other continent and in the world, and is also contributing in terms of building, whole the world. It's also part important as you look from the United Nations, and it playing a very important role too. That's why it's very important also to be part of this dialogue that in the last stage builds the world itself. Africa is I think would be, could say, is a sort of a hotspot in terms of studies, if you want to start. Africa, you can learn from Africa very important aspects of the history of humanity. You learn also from Africa the importance of natural resources. You learn also from Africa very cultural aspects of that the world need, many universities need to understand the humanity. But in Africa, you also see where disconnections are that raises so many conflicts. You see also from Africa, and being a continent with all these situations, I think is also important to be very good connected to the rest of the world, so that we can also learn from the world how we are going to solve some of these problems, and how we are going also to take other experience to bring to our continent. And looking to the Southern Africa, for instance, we do have some challenges for reintegration. It's not also reintegration within the southern region of Africa, but also reintegration worldwide. We are trying since in the 80s to build a good region in the southern Africa after the liberation of our states from colonialism, from apartheid. We are trying now to build a region that can be integrated economically, politically, culturally, and all others, so that we can develop itself. Because in the beginning, all our economies, all our thinking was linking to outside, not the connection. Because as you see, we are all quite poor countries. And sometimes you think, do I need to connect myself with Malawi? What am I going to gain from Malawi? But now we understand that it's important that we look at each other, we try to develop each other, so that we can also have expression when we go outside of the continent, of the region. And there is a good program going on for integration of the continent, to build one, for instance, one currency, to have a regional bank, to have a parliament, Pan-African parliament, which is going on, and all these efforts will bring us to unity and to fortify the process of development. I do appreciate how the European Union is now in terms of organization, in terms of being unified. I'm not saying that everything is good, but I think that you have developed yourself very, very far, very good, and we need also to take.
Yeah, we have exploited quite a few people to get to it as well.
Really. So, and I see that my country is very important unity for all this thinking, regional thinking, continental thinking.
But when because you went from sort of thinking Africa as a whole continent, and then you went into the southern region. Do you think that in order for the southern region to work better, also needs to be connected and united with the rest of Africa?
Yes. It's very important. Today you can't work isolated. We are globalized, and even we are coming from local now. We need to open the doors. We need to see that we are part of the world. We are part of world citizens. So we need also to learn from. Even if you look to universities, to airplanes, all the time are connected. Are trying to build more sports. So Mozambique and the southern region of Africa need also to benefit from that, because we are part of the one world. It's important. So that's why I see also that my own country is important for this African movement, for this regional movement, for this world movement. And we need also to take our own responsibility in terms of building good ways of democracy, building good ways of good governance, because those are still the challenge of my country. We need to divorce the way that we have been governing our country in the 60s, in the 80s colonial time, and since 1995 we are independent. But we need to deep our democracy processes, the way we go governing the country, so that everyone can see that the rights, I mean the civil, political, and socio-economic, including cultural rights, are really respected, so that every single citizen, every family can be part of the development of our country faced, so that the contribution of this country can connect the region, can connect also the world. Those are the big challenges.
That is very difficult, because I think the model that is imposed throughout the world, but I think the model that Africa as a whole, we can say, is following, is one that goes from the top. It goes from the top down and tends to benefit a lot more the top than it does the bottom.
Sure, that's the big problem, because the way we are doing things is somehow imposed by others, by other experience, because some can have their benefits from that. But it's important to recognize that once we establish our own state, our own government, the people connected to that government, to that country, have responsibility. And their responsibility is really to build culturally, I mean, the way of governing their country, the way that they interconnect with their people, respecting their own culture, but not to push away or to draw away the universal rights of the people. We need to see that it's important to have the universal right of the people, because there is also African Charter, which respect the universal being of the people, rights of the people. But we have some ingredients which are part from our cultural being in Africa that need to be respected. The human rights are the same everywhere. We need to bring them, we need to have them also locally. But there are specific aspects that we have the right to respect from our culture. But at the end, all this process needs to respect the human rights of the people, need to respect the willing of the people locally. It's the same. If I like to eat coconuts, for instance, if I like to eat, I have to be respected. No one can come and impose, no, now you have to eat fish because we are close to the beach or things like that. So I think there is still our problem. But to have this independence in Africa and Mozambique, for instance, we need to have our economic independence. This is still the big problem, because we gain our independence from colonial time, but the process of governing correctly our country are still a big challenge. Yeah, we are a country of big corruption, country of bad governance, I can say, or poor governance, I can say. We are not in condition now to be present where our citizens are. That's why we have frequently insurgencies in our country. We have a lot of resources in this country, natural resources everywhere. We have the beach from south to north, so we are rich in terms of natural resources. But we are not exploiting them correctly. We are not equitably distributing them to the people, and those aspects are violating primarily the human rights of the citizens in the country. And this is our challenge, not the challenge only of Mozambique, but of the southern region of Africa, the challenge of Africa. I'm part of civil society organization, and we have always meetings and discuss all those things on Zimbabwe, on Namibia, on South Africa, and we see even that because there is a growing conscience of the citizens to fight for their rights, the civic space are always shrinking, are always narrow from the government, because they are not understanding that the right of the people have to be fought for themselves. Those are the challenge that we have at this moment. We are not only happy because we got independence, but we need also to be happy because the process of governing are respecting citizens' individual rights. I think this is very important for our culture. And we can't contribute correctly to the region, correct to the world, or the continent and to the world, while we are still fighting with small things that we need to liberate ourselves, to build interior independence. We cannot contribute while we are always preoccupied for fighting, because we have insurgents, we have Boko Haram everywhere. The continent, the African continent, I think, still need to rethink deeply and understand that the most conflict that we have are not imposed. Are imposed, yes, maybe 30%, but the big problem is our internal. We do have now, I think you know that we have now conflict in Cabo Delgado, which is the north of the province. We have insurgents since 2017. And if you look to that conflict in the north of the country, could also raise anyway in each province in the country. If you look to that conflict, you will understand that we have young people from our local community fighting and killing a lot of people. What people are designated as terrorism, but myself, I understand this as local insurgency. If you look at the people, we are not. It is not an invasion of other country to our. There are people which are discontent in that area because in 50 years of independence, they are not respected, or their rights are not respected. For instance, you can find there, my father was combatant, and is lying down there with a disease, a curable disease, long time without medicament. There is no assistance. My old brother finished the school at grade 7 because there is no schools there. He is unemployed. He don't have hope. He don't see the connection, his connection to the state. And in a country like our, huge corruption and these things, when many people are born, are grown without hope, and there is a lot of resources in that area which are exploited by people who are not developing the community themselves. And if one come in and say, yes, take this $100 and shoot there, and he will do that. Because the process of education that young people, that the education that those young people would benefit is not there. There is no let me say, public policies which protect the process of education, the people, the process of developing their mind in favor of the state is not there. So those processes are still a big problem in our country.
So you think that there are similarities between conflicts around Africa, which you've just said that the north of Mozambique is a combination of youth with no hope.
Exactly.
And the dynamics of a rich resource area.
Exactly.
But still, would you say that there are similar dynamics going on? For example, you just mentioned Boko Haram.
Yes.
There
are similarity. Yes, there are similarity, and the problem is the same. If I know that in my village or the area which I'm living, even primitively, there are resources which are very important for the development of the world, of the country, and those resources are exploited by some other, even being from my own country, but big companies are taking these resources and developing somewhere else.
Yes.
And not directly to me. There is no policy of taking the resource in that area, but developing also the surrounding people. These raise direct conflict. Because the aspect of peace and security are attended when people exactly see that the resource I'm taking there need also to protect the same company, but from the people surrounding, because they are happy. They see that what my government is doing, what the company is doing, is not for other people elsewhere, but also for our well-being. We need the school, we need the hospital, we need everything. If we are not considering this process, then there is a process of another colonization locally. People from other provinces, because they went to school, they know how to exploit things, they take resources of the people. For instance, the government is connected to some company which exploit there, but the process of taxation, taxation, how do you say that? With impostos?
Taxes.
Yes, are not benefiting the people locally. And if you are not doing this, everyone who comes from outside, he says also, this company is doing bad to your life. You have to shoot, you have to fight against it. He will do it.
But then why are the arms, why are the weapons there? How come, where did the weapons come from? You can be very fed up and outraged and still not mount a conflict.
Yeah, it's very easy to understand. As I said, it's the same process which happened in Cabinda in Angola is happening in Nigeria as well. Where the weapons are coming. The weapons are coming and fueled from the people who are discontent. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the weapons coming from inside the country. Okay. and the weapons are coming also from outside. Since your government is not able to protect the borders, we do have a long border. You see here from Maputo it's about 2,700 kilometer beach from here to Cabo Delgado in Palma, the border with Tanzania, Somalia. So there's a long border, and the capacity of the government to control this border is very, very less. They don't have capacity to control that. If you look to the border with Tanzania, even the site of Tanzania, I was there last year in Dar es Salaam, you will see that the people are suffering the same situation like Mozambique. You have at other sites Zambia or Malawi. So those borders are very, very weak, are not controlled. Everyone who wants, or let me say this loud, everyone who is discontent in this region, the first thing he wants to do, if he knows that I don't have a freedom here to talk with my government, to claim what are my rights, the first thing he will look after building a house is alliance, to build alliance. And if I build alliance with other people outside who are also against the system of my country, they will bring weapons and I will be the receiver in this country. This is the problem. That's why I was saying that the process of peace and also the safety of the country is built from the way we are really equitably distribute the resources, we deal with the people, we make people feeling happy from their own government. And if I'm not happy with the way the country is dealing, the resources are taking, I will not be part of those who build peace for the country, because I'm not happy, I'm suffering. So, I think is this topic that the leaders of our continent, of the region of Southern Africa, need to know first, that the process of governing the country is really to be transparent, so much transparent that the people knows that even if we don't have a school there, but the people know that the resources that we have are not enough to build the school, because I'm open. Everyone knows that we need to work hard to have more money to build the school. But if the people know that my government is receiving a lot of money, but there is no political will to build the school, to make better the life of the community, they will be like connected to everyone outside who want to destroy the country. So, but we have not to think that the problem is caused by those who are outside. No, the problem is first caused by us, because we are the receiver of those weapons, because we do have always the cows to fight. Yeah. This is the big problem. There is a I will not be able to explain this in English, but there is a quotation is a proverbio in Africans.
Proverb?
Yeah, they say in Portuguese that se o feiticeiro entra na sua casa porque alguém abriu a porta.
So someone comes into your house,
yes,
because you open the door.
You open the door. So, and to justify the poor governance that we have, many countries in Africa, they say, no, we have here insurgents. They don't like the words insurgents. They like the word terrorism, because if they say that the attack that we have is terrorist attack, we are saying that we are able to hide, or we victimize ourselves. We say that I'm victim from attack, from outside attacks, but also we hide the situation that we are guilty. We are the ones who provocate this problem. But at third place, we have support, international logistic support. That's why everyone likes to say, it's a terrorist attack. Because you know that if you don't say that, he will say that insurgents, it means that I am not governing correctly. And this is the problem of Africa that we need to consider, to discuss, and to find ways of solving. Because the problem is not, in Africa we have demographically, people are growing old. We produce a lot of people. We are, and there is here not correspondence between the level that people are born and growing and the economy is growing. So we will have always shortage of, we have always needs in terms of basic basic needs.
Yes, basically.
Yes, and we are not in condition to satisfy that. But if everyone is open, is transparent enough, everyone in the country, he will know, he will understand that no, it's not, my government is not fault, it's not the problem. But we need to work hard to improve our strategy of producing basic needs for the country. I think there is the big problem.
Yeah, those are very complicated because it is also true that there are global market dynamics that keep reproducing that situation. Why you don't have access to certain markets, why you don't have access to certain infrastructure, etc. And why the global market rules keep benefiting, global northern countries and those that are already settled in that market. And so to take it a little bit more closer to home, you were saying your organization works for peace promotion and crime prevention, the reintegration of combatants. Perhaps you want to tell us a bit more about what your organization does.
With pleasure. I have a statute in this country of combatant because I was military. After my study in Germany, before I went to Germany, I was child soldier. I was involved in the child soldier situation, and I witnessed a lot of situation. And when I was...
You yourself?
Yes, child soldier.
You were a child soldier?
Yeah, I was a child soldier, yes.
With
and
any group?
Yeah, Renamo.
With Renamo?
Yes. Renamo is that who fought against the government in the first years of independence. 2 years after independence, they started the war in my own province. And I was recruited when I was coming from school, going home with some colleague. There's many papers written in Europe on that in the past. And I spent there only 3 months. It was not long, 3 months, but it was like a 2, 3, 4 years because I witnessed brutality and many of things that was happening. I was 11 years old at that time. Yeah. And when the government soldiers went to attack that base where I was, and everyone fled, was possible to go back home. But after long time of running away without know where I was going with many others, and I reached what we call Mashamba, which is a field somewhere we're working there. And he had also a fright because he thought that I was a bandit or thing like that. And I approached him and I started to tell him, and he had also the shooting day before and took me to the village chief, secretary of Dubai. He took me to that person and presented me there, and that person made me some interrogation, then took me to the military station. And they did interrogation. They want to know where I come from, how was that, because they was thinking that I'm trying to infiltrate in the community, while I was not in that base. So this took a process. While my mother was thinking that I'm dead, because the time. And after that, they discovered that I was really from that school. They took me to the school. They did the investigation and they integrated me again in the school. And in 1982, I was one of the best in my school. They said, okay, we are going to send you to study in Cuba. Yes, and no one from us knew that about Cuba, because I was living very, very far from the cities in Chiyol. There was no car, nothing, and yeah, we were living from the field like animals. Yes,
yeah.
I was there.
It's like a rural area, it's like people leaving the area.
But very, very primitive rural area. But my mother was always saying that you need to go to school, and she put me in an internat because my father died when I was about 5 years. And he was also combatant. And I went to that school. When I had, let me say, holidays, I was going from the school to my home when I was captured by Renamo military. I went to that base. So, which is important is that when I came out from that situation, I was reintegrated again in the school, and they gave me opportunity to go to study in Cuba. And I came from Jekwa Secondary School, which is in the border with Zimbabwe, 11 kilometers from the border with Zimbabwe, where the war started, exactly, this war. And they took me to the province capital, and from that they took me to Maputo. I came here in Maputo in 1992. It was in the month of April 1992. And I was located here in Maputo. My first time to come to a big city like this, and with the indication that I will go to Cuba. But during the process of, because we are many kids were joined the same place, during the process of triage, they discovered that I was 11 years old, going to 12. And in Cuba, we are not allowed to go with 12 years, only with 16.
Okay.
Yeah, 16. And they said, yes, we are going to send you to Germany. Yeah. And and they went to Germany. Samora Machel, the first president, asked Erich Honecker, which was the president there, to construct a school for 900 kids of Mozambique, including those which parents were died during the war, to start there. And they was included that. In that time, I had grade 6, and I went to Germany, and I spent in Germany about 9 years. Yeah.
So you never made it to Cuba in the end?
No. Yeah, because of the age.
So
I was sent to
to Germany.
I was about to be
colder.
Yeah, I was about to be sent back home, but there was a solution. No, he can go to Germany because he's a good student and he's orphan. Mm-hmm. Yeah, without parents, because my father died. So I went to Germany. In Germany, I started to learn German. 2 years, they said gay and air cruise. Learning German was not easy. Yes, I know. And then we went directly to school, and I did there my training, and I was prepared as engineer, not completed because it's a course that they say with a diploma.
A diploma?
Yes, but not completed engineer. It's a level that I was training as machine on the enlightenment. I didn't tell him that I do also speak German. So after that, I came back home. I was introduced once again in the army, correct army, yes, because of the training I had in German. I spent about 7 years in the army, and I came back. So indeed, in this process, the war was really very strong in my country, and we had really combat at that time. That's why I'm holding also a statute of combatant. After this process, I say that I would like to build my own organization, which would care about peace building, about crime prevention, and about reintegration of former combatants, but also marginalized people. This is the turning point of the process. Why? Because during the process of military, I discovered that about let me say 90% maybe from the Mozambican people were traumatized, very traumatized because of the war. We had a brutal war, very brutal war in this country. We destroyed everything. Here in the city, yes.
I don't think there is a non-brutal war.
Yeah, sure. In the rural areas, we had really destruction. We had really killings. So, and I knew that we reached the peace agreement, which was signed in Rome, but that was a very good stage of reaching that peace agreement. But the big work, the big challenge would be to restore the mindset. I mean, to change the way that people have been living of killing other and robbing a lot of things, to bring them back to peace of people where resources are not there. We had a lot of young people who lost their time of school, and we are going to face a democratic regimes which give opportunity to people to show the diploma they have to have a workplace or job, and we will have many problems in the country that would also turn people to conflict. This was my thinking in that time, and I knew also that this country had millions of small arms that was brought into the country by apartheid during the war, because they were supporting Renamo movement, and those weapons was not collected during the peace process. United Nations estimated 5 to 6 millions of small arms and light weapons out of the control of government in 1995. They estimated that. But the weapon that was given to the government during the reintegration of army was only 200. So we knew that there are a lot of weapons in the country that need to be collected. And being military, prepared in those things of, let me say, ballistic things, I would contribute to build peace first in building mechanism of civic education to communities on how they would face the peace now, how we can construct peace after the war. This was one of our topic. But the second one, to build a team, prepared team that could collect and destroy weapons which was left in the bush. So, in the beginning, no one wanted to accept that, but the President Chisano at the time said, yes, the civil society organizations are responsible in the process of building peace. We should leave them work in that way, and we will be evaluating the process, how it will go. So, we joined in that time with the Christian Council of Mozambique. We did the job. Christian Council of Mozambique took a very important step in civic education because of many churches that they have in the country. And my team was responsible in doing research in the bush, discovering where the weapons are hidden, and collect them, remove them, and destroy them. Pyrotechnical is the system that we use to destroy one time the weapon. And this process succeeds. That's why, as I said, I was traveling over all the world doing this, because we were able to collect more than 1 million of war artifacts. I'm not saying here only weapons, but generally war artifacts. And we had a good support of many countries of Europe funding the project, and that's why I say there was in Canada saying thanks to the people, those who were collecting their money and sending to Mozambique for the peace process. I went to a small city in Japan called Matsuyama. And I spoke with the mayor of that city because in Japan, people have a lot of bicycles and they leave them in the road. And I say this bicycle can be useful for the process of building peace in my country. But I would like that if you can collect them, put them in container and send to my country, because we will take them to the rural areas and to exchange with weapons. And say the people, everyone who can give me weapons in certain quantity, I will give to them bicycles. We can here build water wells. We can put here schools and all those things, yes, so that they can see that in exchange of weapons that are hidden there, they can gain something that can change their mind in terms of. But we are not giving money cash. We wanted to give them another way of thinking on their development, and this succeeded. We had many containers here, and we did this process and it worked very well. That's why I was invited even to the United Nations. In 2001, I still remember that in November I went there to do a presentation, and I went back several times on the importance of working together, civil society and governance in peace buildings, fundamental to those countries who had many years of war, where many people are traumatized. And connected to that process, we also worked with many sociologists. But we are also working through some cases of people who are really traumatized. And we produced a book at that time of child soldiers, and so we did a lot of work. And from that process, about 10 years after that process, we jumped to the process of crime prevention, using that network, the network that we built in peace building, to work on the on crime prevention. So, because of the evidence that we have in this country, even in Cabo Delgado, where I was saying, which is terrorism now, we was invited by the Secretariat of the SADC, which is the Southern Africa Development Community, and of our states, to produce for them a guidelines on how the region would prevent crimes. But they wanted local organization that have evidence of saying that we started this and the results are this. Is the sort of saying that this is working properly. So, and we presented our strategy, how we do this process of crime prevention. And they said, yes, here we can use your strategy. Please produce for us a guideline. And indeed, we prepare during 2 years this with the other organization of the region. And in June, 6th June of 2019, I was in Lusaka, Zambia, giving the book to the police. There was a general assembly of police of the region of SADC giving the guideline, and they are using this guideline. Now we are asked, I will be in October in a conference in Cape Town talking on the situation of Cabo Delgado, the insurgents, finding the solution, because we have our military solution, but we need to look deep into this process if it's really work, because the military solution, it will not kill the problem itself. Military solution, it will kill the people, but the problem itself will be latent, will maintain there. And we're thinking to see what needs to be done for Mozambique, from the side of Mozambique, but also the region which supports Mozambique, to find solution for that. And I'm happy to go and contribute in this situation. So this was my organization. In the ground, what do? We do in crime prevention, we do what we call self-audit on crime in that certain community, which involve an inquiry to find out what are the social situation of life of that community, what are the main crimes committed in that community, and we will come to the point that we say that we have top 5. Top 5 are top 5 crimes committed most in that community.
Okay.
And from that top 5 community, we discover if the one is committed generally by using weapons or not, or is committed when people are drunkard, or is committed in domestic violence. We will analyze all this process to find out which mechanism we are going to use to prevent that. And the solution we find is to create in that community what we call intervention commissions.
You'll be leaving now, so will you join us, or will you come later with a taxi, or?
Is it like right now, or can it be in 5 minutes?
No.
Okay, I'll come back. I'll go myself.
Yeah.
I just need like 5 or 10.
We are in this rectorate building, I guess. Yeah. And if not, or maybe you text us where we are.
Yeah, not a problem. I'll go in a few minutes. Thank you.
Also, yes. When we find the top 5 problem in that community, we will also understand, analyzing each problem, say that the big issue here is lack of job. The big issue is that we have production of traditional beers, which affect the community. The big job here is that people do not have, young people do not have entertaining spaces. We analyze all those things. Then we have a commission in that community that will be trained. It's the other step that the Southern Africa region like it most, that we have a community and a volunteer in that community who say, no, to this site I can contribute. And if we have this group of, let's say 5 to 10 people responding to that specific community, then we are going to train them. We have been working with the WHO to training those people in specific matters of dealing with that certain situation of that community.
So what did you find out of that? What's kind of the top one?
In Mozambique. In Mozambique we have most crime committed using weapons.
Okay.
Because of the legacy of war, as I said. That's why from the military side we jumped to the crime prevention.
Yes,
because we knew
those things that you listed were actually the top.
Exactly. Committed by weapon, assaults and all those things. We have domestic crimes, lot. We have also cultural situation which involve elderly to let their young girls marry with low underage. Yes, it's another situation which also against the law. Yes, basic domestic violence committed through weapons, and also robbery. Car hijack. This is the most that we find. But some of those you will find that are cultural. The way that we was educated, machismos and because I'm man, I have to say this. Those which are not only a situation of law, are a situation of education, deep education that take time, so that people understand that we need to build a common ground at home and all this. So, and these are the processes that we use to prevent crime, because crime are not prevented the people. So we even consider crime is a conflict, and conflict to be solved. Not only say that like militias, we have to stand here to check if the people have ID or not, you arrest them to put in jail. This is another step, but it's important to educate people so that they can change the way that they see things, because it's also an encounter of secular education of many years education in their community, for instance, and we need to destroy, to disconstruct this process. So it's this process is that we are taking, and we are invited even by governments, by municipal authorities to work with them, because we build it what we call triangular model, which is community, and which is the authority of and the law enforcement, because there was a certain of divorce here. Our police do not know why the certain situations are happening in that village. They go only by force, and we need to sit with them to show that the origin of crime sometimes are this. Because people don't have this, and transport is a problem, and this, and so that they can understand and can help to be part of the triangle model on how to prevent those situations. So, if we have been working through this,
a lot of work.
and doing this, you understand deeply the systemic, how the things really are, where the things are failing,
Okay, Professor Sociolog Forquilla, many thanks. Thank you very much for this time. Obrigado.
Thank you. We will be in touch.